Welcome back to the Garrett Ashley Mullet YouTube channel. Reaction video time. A departure from my typical, much more serious fare at the GarrettAshleyMulletShow.com. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And so I've been encouraged to get into doing some reaction videos again. For a little bit of backstory, started doing these about a year ago when my wife contracted COVID and I was home on 2 weeks of quarantine for her having COVID. I don't know that I got it. I don't think that I got it because I never really had symptoms. But I, in the meantime, figured out how to do reaction videos and then promptly, when I went back to work, stopped doing them. But my 8 children, not all 8 of them, but a good many of my 8 children, tell me that is for the worse and that I should start doing these reaction videos again. And so, in addition to that, I also have my cousin, Micah Hirschberger, who I, for a long time, have collaborated in writing and podcasting and brainstorming about the things that I write and podcast about. I have him recommending that I get back into doing the reaction videos. And so I've got an amalgamation of 3 to react to here. We're going to jump right in. First off, with Lizzo responding to Aries Spears' supposedly fatphobic comments. He supposedly made some fatphobic comments about her because she is fat and he is apparently afraid of her fatness. I think he maybe is not as afraid as everybody who thinks we need to compliment and praise people who are big and supposedly beautiful. I don't know that the two go hand in hand necessarily. And let's just jump in, I guess. We'll find out what it is that Lizzo had to say. I'm sure it was very dignified and insightful.
They be like, Lizzo, why don't you clap back? Why don't you clap back? Because, bitch, I'm winning, ho.
Lizzo was clapping back in the best way possible by not clapping back.
Big bitch is winning, ho! That's what vintage show people, bitch!
Yep, the Truth Hurts singer's name trended all weekend long after comedian Aries Spears made comments about her body to the Art of Dialogue.
I can't get past the fact that she looks like emoji.
Yo.
Very beautiful girl. She's got a very pretty face, but she keeps showing her body off. Like, come on, man. Come on, yo.
Aries went on to make comments about his own body too, but insisted his quote, swagger and confidence made up for what he lacked.
I'm sorry, listen, I ain't the most in shape in the world.
Okay, well, so she has swagger, if you will, if I may say so. That really isn't the big difference between him and her, in my opinion. Now, I don't know what they both weigh. He looks like he maybe does not weigh what she weighs. I could be wrong. I don't know. Full disclosure, I used to be a personal fitness instructor. That was my part-time job in high school. And the big idea was not to tell everybody who walked in through those doors of the fitness center, you're perfect just the way that you are. No, you're not perfect the way that you're looking right now and feeling right now. If you were, you wouldn't be here. I'm not either. In fact, the people who come in here regularly are not either. And the big idea is not that you will be perfect, but the big idea is that you're not just accepting and settling for where you're at. And if I may, as somebody who was for a few years a personal fitness instructor, this idea of the body positivity, I sometimes I talk too fast and I combine my words. The body words. The body positivity you're perfect just the way that you are. There could never be a more beautiful you. That whole business is just not true. It's flattery, actually. It's flattery. We are not all just beautiful just the way that we are. Some people are objectively more beautiful. Some people are objectively in better shape. Have a workout competition, and you will quickly find that there are metrics. And even just when it comes to basic health and wellness, there are metrics. If there weren't metrics, then there would be no such thing as health. We're kind of abolishing the idea that there is any such thing as health when we say big is beautiful and the sky is the limit as far as how big you can be, and we're still going to flatter you and say that the emperor has no clothes. You will be canceled. Or they'll try anyways. It seems like Aries Spears here, I'm not really familiar with his comedy work, but it seems like to me, he's decided, even though he's a bit overweight himself, he's going to emphasize his other good qualities, his other positive qualities, and say those are what make up for the fact that he is big. Those other qualities are what makes him beautiful, and that's fine, right? There are people who are in very good physical shape who are a mess when it comes to self-confidence, but then vice versa, there are people who are in very, very bad shape physically who are just brimming with confidence, and that confidence is attractive. What I don't think we should be doing is telling people who are in good physical shape, you should feel ashamed of yourself for being in good physical shape. If you're in good physical shape, you know what? That's not all there is to you. There's also a mind you need to cultivate. There's also a heart that needs to be guarded. There's also a soul, which you should entrust to the Lord Almighty. There's more to you than just your physical body, your physical fitness. Yes. But that is to say, too, there is physical fitness to you, and that's important. And as a personal fitness instructor, once upon a time, a long time ago, I am concerned that we are telling people to not change a thing. And what we should be telling them is, you know what? Hey, you can do this, right? That's what we should be telling them. Unfortunately, we're telling them to only focus on the unrealistic, body image ideals, when those unrealistic body image ideals are super, super skinny, unhealthily so. It is also unrealistic to say you're going to be living your 400-pound life, and that's just fine. There's no repercussions to that except the positive ones where we praise you and we laud you. At a certain point, you have to just say, hey, we're not loving one another well when we're affirming and enabling unhealthy life choices with regards to food consumption relative activity level. Just saying.
Girl, but I still, when you funny and you got swagger and confidence and you decent looking, I think I'm at least handsome, you get.
As for what he thinks about Lizzo, the comic doubled down, taking this shot at the singer.
But a woman that's built like a plate of mashed potatoes is in trouble.
But Lizzo proved being blessed and unbothered is the best revenge. Slyly addressing the controversy on stage at the VMAs as she accepted the trophy for Video for Good.
And now, to the bitches that got something to say about me in the press. You know what? I'm not gonna say nothing.
Well, she definitely said.
Okay, but you just did though, right? Like you just did. Essentially, as it seems to me, if I may, it seems to me as though what you've just said is you're being successful. You're living your best life now. You're successful because you're holding up this trophy and people are buying your records. And that's, I guess, a kind of success, but that doesn't, I'm sorry, that doesn't pass the sniff test in terms of why, right? Why? Why culturally, when COVID shut everything down and everybody, I guess, was just locked in their homes and letting themselves go, why are we celebrating people who make us feel like that's just totally fine? Instead of celebrating people who are saying, no, like we need to push through this. We need to be stronger than this. And yes, we are feeling some anxiety. We're feeling some stress. We're concerned. We're worried about where our country is going or whether loved ones are going to get sick or whatever. We're worried about the whole economy being shut down. I guess some people maybe not quite as worried if they are making millions and millions and millions of dollars selling records because they're big and beautiful, and the bigger the better, the bigger the more beautiful. But dare I say it, there is a kind of patronizing quality to this. And oh, by the way, since we just came through COVID, people who are obese are at a higher risk of literally everything. You are more vulnerable to everything, except for getting carried off and kidnapped or what have you. You're not as vulnerable to getting kidnapped and somebody just picking you up and yeeting you into their van and driving off into the sunset. I guess you're safe there, but otherwise, you're not living your best life. And I've been tens of pounds overweight person myself, tens of pounds overweight, not hundreds of pounds overweight, thankfully, but I've been a tens of pounds overweight person before. I think I got up to 220, 230 once upon a time. And I was not living my best life. And I am glad that nobody was telling me, hey, you're doing great. You're beautiful just the way that you are. I'm glad that nobody was telling me that. I'm glad that people were decent to me still, but nobody needed to flatter me and say, hey, you're perfect just the way you are. Nobody needed to say that. In fact, that would have been very unloving, when what really needed to happen was that I needed to get off my butt and exercise, and I needed to stop being depressed and feeling sorry for myself. It's one thing, by the way, to say we're going to try and encourage people who are feeling depressed and they're eating their stress, and we're going to try and encourage them to get more active and get fit and get in shape and get out there. It's quite another thing when we start saying to people who are overweight and way overweight, you're perfect. And actually, the more overweight you are, the more we're going to celebrate you. Rubenesque, that time has come and gone. I think this is a fool's errand, if I may say so.
Said something.
Maybe like, Lizzo, why don't you clap back? Why don't you clap back? Because, bitch, I'm winning, ho. Big bitch is winning, ho!
Safe to say there is no slowing down for.
Okay, but I'm sorry, like that's not substance either, though, right? Like there's not a lot of weight to your response. Dropping some profanity in public with impunity because who's going to challenge you on it? That is not elevating our discourse, and that is not dignified, and that's not respectful. What Aries Spears said might have been opportunistic, and he might have just been trying to increase his own brand and make something of himself and get headlines like he just did. Sure, okay. But also, all parties concerned here need to be thinking in terms of, are we treating one another with respect? And are we building one another up towards love and good deeds? I personally, as a father of 8, as a husband, don't look at these things as somebody who can just do whatever and it's all the same. I think I need to be taking some basic care of my body. So I just bought a rowing machine because I want to be taking some decent care of my body, setting a good example for my kids. I want my wife and my daughter and my sons and myself to be good stewards of what the good Lord has given us. And that involves paying some attention, giving some care to what we eat. Yes, it can be delicious, but also too, we can control ourselves and not just eat everything that's put in front of us. Also too, How well are we able to serve one another if we are living our 400-pound life? Not as well as we could. How well are we able to serve and love others? How well are we honoring the good Lord above if we are just letting ourselves go? I say not very well. And that includes more than just food. That includes self-discipline when it comes to the things that we say. And that might come as a surprise, given some of the things that I say. I'm a work in progress. I am not here on a high horse. But by golly, we should have a little bit more substance than just using some bad language and saying, aha, your argument is invalid because I just said bitch on TV. Aha, top that. Well, he also said some bad words. And by the way, isn't it interesting? She doesn't get bleeped out, but he gets bleeped out. Anybody else notice that? Neither of them are in trim, fit condition. If they were, either of them talking that way to the other, well, if he was in super trim, fit condition, it would be lights out for him. The only reason he's able to say anything at all probably is because he's also overweight himself. But let's take it down the home stretch. Let's see what else they have to say.
Lizzo. Before the show, she walked the red carpet in this over-the-top dark blue gown, rocking a dramatic dark lip color and a retro classic hairdo.
I'm feeling good as hell.
And she brought the good vibes to the stage, shutting up anyone who has something bad to say with this show-stopping performance.
How am I supposed to love somebody else when I don't like myself alike? Guess I better learn to like this. It might take my whole life just to do. He called me Melly. He squeezed my belly. I'm too embarrassed to say I like it. Girl, is this my boo? Maybe like Liz.
Okay. All right. So that's enough of that. Why do we all need to be perfect just the way that we are when there's a good God above who can forgive us and has already sent a Savior to forgive us? Why do we need to be perfect just the way that we are? I think it's because we have no concept of grace. And we have no concept of grace because we have no concept that there's a gracious God who has already made atoning sacrifice for our sins. I dare say that. All of us instinctively know that we are imperfect. And so there's a lot of what we're doing in our day, in this day here in the United States of America, as we've become increasingly secular and godless. There's a lot of what we're doing that is just denying the premise of our sinful nature and trying to redefine everything. If we can't meet the standard, then we just change the standard until we can meet it. We flatter ourselves, and the rest of the world, if it's smart, is not going to fall in line. They'll figure out that we have lost it, and they will capitalize on it. And I dare say, the only thing that will cure us of this addiction to flattering ourselves and one another will be an existential crisis. If this is the way we're going to be, the only thing for it is an existential crisis. If it's a choice between really truly believing that your life depends on it and embracing a unhealthy lifestyle, whether that's in relation to the way we treat one another or whether that's in relation to the way that we eat and exercise or don't eat and don't exercise properly in a healthy way, according to science, talking about follow the science. There's no science that backs the body positivity trend right now. At a certain point, it's just going to take people dropping dead because of bad choices. If we're not willing to listen to reason, then it's destruction and it's folly in the meantime. So don't affirm it. If you love people, don't affirm it. If you affirm it, you have blood on your hands. If you're flattering folks who are making self-destructive life choices, you've got blood on your hands. But let's move on to the second video, shall we?
So why don't you clap back? Why don't you clap back?
Okay, so second, we've got another video, and this one is of, I guess, Elon Musk having warned us about the dangers of AI. And so the big idea is that we should not be pursuing artificial intelligence and robots because this lady has something to say about some military robots in Japan killing 29 people. I don't know if this is legit. We're just going to go ahead and click into it, and we'll see what we come up with. We'll see what we get. Loading.
At a top robotics company in Japan this week, 4 robots being developed for military applications killed 29 humans in the lab. And they did it by shooting what he called metal bullets. The scariest part is that lab workers deactivated 2 of the robots, took apart the 3rd. But the 4th robot began restoring itself and somehow connected to an orbiting satellite to download information about how to rebuild itself even more strongly than before.
Mark my words, AI is far more dangerous than nukes. Far.
At a top robot.
Okay. All right. I don't know if that's correct. I don't know if that's true. I'll say this. I work in automation. I work in instrumentation and controls and systems integration. I'm not saying this sort of a thing couldn't happen. I know that there are a lot of people who are working on artificial intelligence that's capable of fulfilling combat roles on the battlefield, doing high risk threat neutralization tasks for law enforcement. I know that there are people who are working on that. And I also definitely know that Elon Musk and others are warning about that. Science fiction authors, makers of sci-fi movies have been warning about these kinds of things, cautionary tales through fiction very often for 100 years. You know, maybe not quite 100 years, but several decades, we'll say. But I don't know. Metal bullets. I don't know if that's this does not seem legit to me. It could be, but I feel like this is kind of sus. I'll look it up. I'll do the research. By all means, you can do the research as well. But I don't think this is legit. I think this is not legit. Last but not least, we've got one more video I'm going to do a reaction to. This is an amalgam. Several videos to react to here that were sent to me by my cousin Micah Hirschberger. The last one is all it says in the preview is job applicant. So I don't know what exactly to make of this one, but we'll go ahead and check it out, and we'll round out our 3 Will It Blend reaction video subjects.
Had a guy come and apply for a job. I don't think he really wanted a job. He's on probation, and a condition of his probation is he has to have gainful employment. He was 22 minutes late for the interview. I said that was fine. He explained that he was on probation and he was a convicted felon. I said that was fine. He said he was a violent offender. I said it was fine. You could tell he's getting kind of frustrated, and you could tell he really didn't want the job. He said he had anger management issues, and I said, that's great. I've got a shovel and the earth. You can take out all your frustrations on the dirt. He said, I don't have reliable transportation. I said, that's fine. We just dock your pay, but we'll pick you up. He said, I'm gay. I said, I don't care. He said, he's a cross-dresser. I said, we had a company uniform. That won't be an issue. He said, man, I really don't want the fucking job. I said, yeah, but I'm offering you the job anyway, so that's a conversation you get to have with your probation officer. I have never seen somebody so disappointed to get a job. He, of course, didn't take it, but he can take that up with his probation officer.
Oh, well played. what is the common denominator here? Yeah, Lizzo is very much overweight. And if you can believe it, I think part of the reason why she's famous is because she's very overweight. And she isn't who we aspire to be, but she's helping us to feel like we are closer to who we aspire to be just by proxy. I'm sorry. That's what it is. And that's not so good. That's not a healthy way to proceed forward. That's not so good. That's my opinion. That's my opinion of the whole body positivity thing. We've given up on having standards in general. A lot of us have. It will not come to a good end. And we should rethink that. Second of all, you got killer robots in Japan. If it's true, yeah. If it's not true, we should still be really cautious about the AI thing. We should still be really cautious about the AI thing. You know, think of it this way. You can only trust the robots as far as you can trust the people who are programming the robots. You can only trust the artificial intelligence, the algorithms, as far as you can trust the people who are doing the coding on that. And that means, on the one hand, it might not be effective. Like they might be incompetent killer robots, which would be somewhat funny. But also, too, it is to say that if you get somebody who's very shrewd and they're really intent on doing a lot of harm, they can just say, oh, the algorithm made the robot do it. But all the while, you know, it's kind of like pleading the insanity defense. Who programmed the robot to do what it did? All kinds of crazy ethical quandaries with regards to the future of technology in the next several years and decades. And, you know, maybe if the world stands the next few centuries. Last but not least, you've got a guy here who, according to the guy, James Butler's his name, who did the short, you got a guy here who doesn't want a job. He does not want the job. And if that's a true story, it wouldn't shock me. But, you know, we do know that labor participation rates are low. The unemployment rate is misleading. The labor participation rate is low. What kinds of jobs do people want to have in this economy, in this context, given the circumstances when the world is as crazy as it is? There's a lot of folk who are probably thinking to themselves increasingly, what's the point? Inflation is out of control. And if we're not careful, if we don't wise up, we are going to tear one another apart. We won't need killer robots to do it. We will just be programmed to tear one another and ourselves to pieces. And that could take the form of eating ourselves to death. It could take the form of substance abuse problems and destroying relationships with one another. That could take the form of just giving up on gainful employment and doing something productive. And I think all told, what is needed is for us to become acquainted with reality again and the fact that it is objective. There is such a thing as truth. There is such a thing as beauty. There is such a thing as goodness. And we need to know it. And we need to conform ourselves to that standard instead of demanding, like petulant children, that the standard conform itself to us. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's what it is. That's all the time I've got, though, for this one. If you liked this video, I'll be coming out with more in the near future. I intend to anyways. Lord willing, we'll live and do this or that, but that's my intention. Go over to the GarrettAshleyMulletShow.com. Check out my podcast. Check out my Patreon. I'll put a link in the description for this video. And you can definitely hit like if you liked this video. If you didn't, move along. You don't have to hit dislike. We don't need that negativity here. If you liked this video a lot, go ahead and hit subscribe, and we'll be coming out with fresh content like this. Who else is a father of 8, homeschooling father of 8, podcaster, oil and gas worker, middle America, flyover country, Rocky Mountains, born and raised, YouTube reactor like this guy. I don't know of a lot of other options you've got aside from me, so you might as well just go ahead and hit subscribe, hit the like button, go over to my website, thegarrettashleymulletshow.com, hit subscribe there as well. But as always, thank you for listening. Until next time, God bless.